we are there with Gravetemples with the second track from their record Ambient Ruin. And as I said at the beginning of the show, I was going to be having a chat with Ballarat music legend and one of the greatest drummers of Australian music scene ever, Matt Skitz. And I have him on the line right now. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Where are you at this evening? Where am I calling you at?
Adelaide.
Oh, you're over in Adelaide at the moment?
Yeah.
I think Dan was saying you've been living over there for a little while now. How are you finding it?
Yeah, it's great. I've been over here for a couple of years now, and it's going pretty good. I love it.
How would you describe the music scene over in Adelaide at the moment?
The music scene got a whole variety of all sorts of stuff. You got your crust bands, you got some black metal stuff, you've got more heavy metal, I guess, death metal, stuff like that. There's all sorts of stuff going on here.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I played 2 gigs on tour in Adelaide this year, and just a great sense of community up there. It's I really love the music scene up there, that's for sure.
There's definitely metal fans here. I think it just depends on what bands play, and I think it also depends on the promotion. But there's definitely a decent scene here, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I guess just for those few listeners, perhaps some of the younger listeners who listen into the show tonight, who perhaps aren't as familiar with your work as some of the others in Ballarat here.
Yeah.
You were born in Ballarat, I believe, in 1972. Is that right?
Warrnambool, actually.
In Warrnambool, okay. When did you move to the Rat?
Early 80s. That would have been late 80, 81, something like that.
Okay.
And I lived in Ballarat through till about late 92. I moved to Melbourne for damage.
Yep. How did you find Ballarat in your early youth in the early 80s? How did you find it around that time?
I sort of felt like there wasn't a lot to do.
Yep.
Ballarat for me was a place that I think it ended up inspiring me to go and do something creative as far as what I ended up doing with my music, because I just felt like it was just lacking some outlet. If that's like probably a cliche way to put it, but in the end, I was pretty drawn to playing drums, and that's what I ended up doing. I just got immersed in the music and wanted to create a band, and that's where Damage started, and all the other stuff.
What was some of the earliest music that really hit you? Was it the stuff that your parents kind of played you in the car on the trips to the holidays and stuff, or was it when you found metal kind of in the late 80s during high school? What was when did music kind of really hit home to you as something that you really wanted to do?
Well, the earliest recollections I have of say listening to music and getting into it was some next door neighbours I had when I was in Warrnambool. When I was quite young, I would have only been about 6, 7 years of age, and the next door neighbours were Kiss fans, and they had all their Kiss albums, posters, all this sort of stuff, and I don't know, it definitely had an effect on me. Not that I'm a Kiss fan now. I'm definitely not a Kiss fan.
Yep.
But like at that age, it was impressionable.
Yeah.
And there's also early on, I remember reading a magazine that had AC/DC in it, and I also had I listened to a lot of radio when I was a kid. Heard a lot of stuff on the radio. It's not that I particularly like a lot of that stuff either, but I ended up hearing a lot of stuff that I guess it interested me a lot as far as a child goes.
Yeah, for sure.
That was the early part of it, but later on, I became friends with a couple of kids at school.
Which high school did you go to, mate?
Ballarat Grammar.
Ah, right. Rich kid.
Not really, no.
No, I'm just kidding, mate, just kidding.
That's probably a point of contention, but yeah, I met a couple of kids. There was only a couple of guys at my school that were remotely interested in metal. And one of the first things I overheard was SOD,
Yep.
Speaking to Die. That was actually a metal band as opposed to, say, hearing stuff like Twisted Sister or hard rock bands. This was more like faster, heavier, more brutal stuff. And then gradually, from hanging around with a couple of these guys at school, I got introduced to Slayer, Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth, all the typical thrash bands.
Yep.
Creator, Sodom, Bathory, Venom, Celtic Frost, Hellhammer.
Yep. All the great classic stuff.
All the classic stuff.
Because that would have been about the height of about 87, 88, wouldn't it, when you were about in high school-ish around that time?
Yeah. I was in high school from 85 through till the end of 88. And I started playing drums in 88.
Yep.
The last year at school. And
you started out doing jazz drumming, didn't you, I think?
Yeah, I started off with a jazz band at school and had just theory lessons with a guy, an old guy that was there. And then eventually they were talking about a guy that was teaching drums actually at Ballarat High School. And he was a teacher, he was an English teacher at Ballarat High School, Don Kirby. And
Yep.
they were doing lessons at school, and I asked my parents, and they said yes. So I started doing lessons every week, and I learned how to play a whole bunch of stuff like funk and lap percussion type stuff, and just general rock drumming, and a whole bunch of stuff that has really been an influence on how I ended up playing drums. But he did not know anything about double kick, and he did not know anything about thrash metal or any of those types of genres. So I ended up teaching myself how to do all that later on.
What drew you to drums at that point, like in 87, 88? Like, what drew you to pick up the sticks and play the drums rather than perhaps playing guitar or being a singer or whatnot? What was it about the drums in particular that really resonated with you?
Well, I'd probably spent about 5 years tapping around to drum beats. Or I had some sort of idea that I had some sort of rhythm-related thing going on that I would like to get involved in with drums. And it wasn't until I was probably about 14, I think, that I actually really wanted to do it. And once I'd actually got the go-ahead with my parents to actually play drums, because I didn't think that was going to happen. I actually thought they were going to say no. It all happened. It just was like, yeah, you can do that. So, and it was also with the encouragement of a friend of mine who was actually playing drums already. And he'd been playing drums for about a year previous to me starting. And he'd asked if I wanted to have a drum on his kit at his house. So I went around there, had a bash. He showed me how to play a couple of things, and I was immediately playing drums like rock beats.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, this is going to happen, you know? Like, I'm pretty inspired. And there was a few other things that really wanted me to get into it. There was a few bands that I was listening to at the time too. Not just metal bands, but hard rock bands, like AC/DC and the Cult, bands like that. And there was another guy at school that was playing AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Rose Tattoo, things like that. Like he was playing drums in a cover band.
Yep.
And I was watching him, and I was getting inspired, and I was like, "Yeah, I've got to get involved." So
I know
that really got me going, I reckon.
I know one record in particular that you've mentioned in a couple of interviews that really hit home for you around that time was Morbid Angel's Altars of Madness, and the drumming particularly on that. And you were talking about before with the jazz drumming, how you were saying how there was only so much that he could teach you. And, you know, I think I read in an interview that you took that DIY approach, do it yourself, almost kind of a very, you know, punk rock way of going about trying to do it yourself, and playing along to slow down vinyls and stuff to learn how to play double kicks and all that kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. I was buying a lot of metal albums at the time, and I had a record player, and I was trying to figure out how to learn these drum beats. And I thought, well, the best way would be just to slow it down. So I slowed down the vinyl, and I could hear the drum beats like in a logical sense. And at the time, I was listening to Cannibal Corpse's first album, Morbid Angel, Altars of Madness, Their Side. I had a lot of the Slayer albums, and I was trying to figure out how to do the drum fills and the double kick stuff. And it was something that I just started doing on a day-to-day basis. I was like, right, I know how to logically figure these drum beats out at slow pace. So I just eventually just figured out all these drum beats, how to do them, and just build them up gradually.
And that's the other thing a lot of listeners out there you got to remember is this is the late 80s. This is before the internet. It's before times when you could just download, you know, stuff and play along with it with a click track in your headphones. You really had to the way that you did it, Skitz, was like either you had to do it kind of like that, have your own imagination, or you had to find someone who could play double kicks and kind of teach you how to do it, I guess, at that time.
Yeah, well, I remember it was very limited as far as like how you would find out these things, how you'd actually do it. It was just trial and error. I actually had to teach myself how to do all double kick, blast beating, thrash, anything to do with metal drumming was my own learning, because there was only one way to do it. And as far as like videos and stuff, instructional videos, I don't think there was very much out there at the time. My parents didn't have a VCR, and so I just taught myself. And it was just a lot of trying to figure out how to do it, and eventually it all just came together. And the results were that with a lot of practice, it was eventually going to get there somehow.
And was the first band Damage? Because that started in '89, didn't it? So it's only like about a year or two after you actually picked up the sticks to play the drums, which is a pretty amazing kind of achievement to start a band. Only a year or two after you've picked up in such a technical way your instrument, you know. Yeah,
well, it was about 15 to 16 months after I'd actually started playing drums with Damage formed, and it was pretty rough. Like, the first couple of years of the band were pretty amateurish, like trying to get our writing skills together and our actual ability to play songs at, like in a decent sort of a way was a lot of effort, really. Everyone that was involved at that time was just getting better and better and better as it went along. there was a lot of practice, really.
What was kind of the original idea behind getting Damage together? What was it you kind of wanted to achieve in the early days with you guys coming together and playing music? Did you have a lot of direction, or was it just you guys coming together and just jamming it out, or is there kind of a...
It was basically just to play music with people that appreciated the same thing.
Yeah.
Because at the very outset of it, I don't think there was really any real goal as such. It was just a bunch of young kids playing metal for the hell of it. I didn't really see what the potential was at the time. I didn't think that it was actually going to go any further than probably the garage. But things just kept developing because we were so keen. It started off doing a couple of Slayer covers or attempting to play Slayer, Metallica. I remember we did a couple of Celtic Frost songs, SOD. Anything that we thought that we could have a go at, we were giving it a shot. But it just started developing with the writing as well. And Matt Stilcock, the guitarist, was a very good guitarist. He was the first one that wrote for the band, and so we just started writing our own songs after probably about a year's worth of jamming and mucking around with different ideas and seeing what was going to happen. It was sort of like something that was unexpected, really.
Do you remember the first time that you met Luddy at all? Can you still recall that particular time when you met him and he became the singer of Damage at that point? Was that early? Was that 89 or was that a little bit later?
No, that was 89. That would have been maybe only, or within maybe a month, 2 months after I had the first few jams.
Yeah, wow.
I think it would have been around about May to June 89.
Yep.
Because the first rehearsals, I think, were around, it was around Easter time, I think. Easter 89.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And
I reckon it would have been a couple of months. Yeah.
And then you guys, you didn't release, you released your first demo in 92, so there was kind of a few years there where you were kind of, I guess, writing and jamming and playing live. Tell us a little bit about that process in those few years of like just getting you guys together, getting those songs together for the first demo, The Art of Destroying Life.
Okay, well, the first, I reckon that first 2 years, between 89 to around mid-92, we were just playing the odd show. We weren't really doing heaps of stuff. We were practicing every week. We done a couple of demos that we never put out. We did one at a guy's house. Did like a 4-track recording, which was quite primitive and rough, but it was something to give us an indication of where we were at.
Yeah.
And we did another one at Midwest Music studio with this guy, Lyndon Chris. I don't know if he still does stuff in Ballarat or not, but he was around back in the late 80s, early 90s.
I know Lyndon, yeah.
Yeah, we did a demo there, I think, in 90... I think it was 91, maybe. Yeah. But I don't think we were very prepared at that time. And eventually, after playing around Ballarat, we were probably playing for less than probably about 30 people a show.
Yep.
The writing and the band just got gradually better. And we got asked to play in Geelong, and we played some show in Geelong, and then we got asked to play some show in Melbourne, which was March 92, its first show in Melbourne. And a guy called Dave Thomas from a band called Board. He got us to play both those shows. And he also put out some recording called Check This Action, which was a compilation. And he recorded 2 songs in Melbourne. And that was before we actually recorded the Art and Strong Life demo, which happened in July '92. We went to Melbourne to record it.
Okay.
And things just started to pick up from there. Like, that's when we started playing in Melbourne, like, every few weeks. We got offers to go and do a lot more stuff after that. So, yeah, that's basically what those couple of years there were just trying to figure out what we're doing. And it just led to that point.
When you said you were playing around the Rat a lot during that time, was that mainly the Provincial and the Bridgemore Inn hotels?
There was the Provincial, Bridgemore Inn. We also played at the Camp Hotel. I think that pretty much was it. Like, Matt Stillcroft's father runs the Camp Hotel. And that's how we got a couple of shows there. And I remember playing with that band Forward there in early 92.
Yep.
And that's when things started to pick up, and that's when the band actually started to make some progress.
Because
actually started to become serious.
I think to a lot of people that I've spoken to about Damaged around Ballarat, because you guys are so legendary, it always comes back to the record Do Not Spit, which was kind of your first album really in '93. Tell us a little bit about the recording and writing of that album, and kind of some of the gigs that you were doing after that record around the Bridgemore Lynn scene, and kind of your impressions of the Ballarat metal scene at that time as well.
Okay, well, after we'd done Art Destroying Life, we started writing all these new songs, and they were more brutal, and I feel like it was influenced directly from probably being involved in the Melbourne metal scene. The bands there were pretty extreme, some of them.
Yep.
And we'll get into more extreme stuff at that stage, and like everything was like heading away from the old thrash metal, the death metal bands and stuff that we were listening to were becoming way more brutal. And I think as a direct effect, the band actually started to pick up the pace and pick up the heaviness, and I think we tuned more, and it all just started to become a lot heavier than what it originally had been. And we wrote the songs, I guess, over the period of, well, some of them were actually songs that were written earlier, like they're probably written 91, 90, some of it.
Yeah.
But we just made the songs a lot more full on, and we went into Toybox Studio in Northcote with Doug Saunders, and that was July '93, and we'd all moved to Melbourne by late '92, so we'd all been in the Melbourne area from that point on. So we were practicing every week. We had gigs nearly, I reckon we were playing probably nearly every week at that stage. There was gig offers coming in thick and fast, and there was a couple of support slots we did around that time as well. And the album, I think, came out late '93, I believe.
And then it's...
And by the, yeah.
Sorry, mate. And then it was really crazy because then the next year, as you said, you did a few supports because in '94, of course, you did the famous support for Cannibal Corpse, which must have been a massive thing for you at the time. That's for sure.
We did at the time. We did one with Bolt Thrower in '93, late '93, October '93. We played a couple of shows with Bolt Thrower, and then there was Fear Factory also around about the same time that we actually recorded Then I Spit.
Yeah, wow.
I'm pretty sure that was actually in the middle of that same time. I think that was like 1 month after. That was our first international support with Fear Factory. And we played a couple of shows with them. And then Do Not Spit came out, I think actually it could have been January '94 the album came out. And I remember the first show that we played in Ballarat when Do Not Spit came out, and it was like all the previous shows that we've ever played before that show. Can't even compare. Like, things just went from being going okay to like, wow, it's totally different now. So the Do Not Spit album helped immensely to bring the band up to a new level, and everything started going completely ballistic from that point on. And yeah, it was definitely a massive change.
For sure. And with that Ballarat, was that Ballarat show at the Bridgie or at the Rat?
That was at the Rat.
Yeah. How was my mate Danny Gallagher? Was he mixing that one? Harry Freak.
Gallagher. Quite possibly, yes.
I think he was, because I said to him I was going to have a chat with you this week, and he's like, "Oh, I wonder if he remembers I mixed Damage a few times," and I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, that's a high possibility. It's a very high possibility, yes.
Because a lot of people have so many fond memories in the Rat of Damage. That's for sure. It's like there's a real legacy of Damaged here that it's really lives and breathes on. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I guess we did a lot of gigs there for quite a while, and Ballarat was very supportive. The metalheads were. It seemed like the metal scene just kept sort of growing at one point. I'm not sure what it's like exactly these days, but at that time, it seemed like a lot more people started to become interested. Considering that I thought that a lot of people were very interested in like the grunge sort of scene at the time, because that was very popular then.
Yeah. No, and as you said, after Do Not Spit, you guys, it just, as you said, it went ballistic. You know, you did, as I mentioned before, you did that the support slot for Corpse in '94, and you also did a few gigs with Morbid Angel in '96, I believe, in Canberra. Is that right?
Yeah, the Cannibal Corpse tour was just after we recorded Passive Backdeck Standings in EP, and that was February '95. And we played like Melbourne and Sydney with Cannibal Corpse, and that was pretty crazy. Like seeing a band like that, it had such an influence on myself to be able to play those shows and see the response from like how many people actually came out for the Cannibal Corpse shows.
Totally, yeah.
It was really good. It was great. It was pretty exciting at the time.
Just surreal, I can imagine. Yeah. What was it like actually? I guess as you say, it's like kind of massive deal. Like these are kind of your heroes. You grew up listening to them and stuff. But was there a lot of nerves and stuff for you when you're kind of supporting like one of your favourite bands ever?
I think I was probably. I was extremely excited at the time. Like, it was probably one of the best things that I could have imagined doing, because I never thought that these things would happen.
Yeah.
I thought that it was all just a bit too surreal, really. But I guess the hard work at the time and just constant writing and doing heaps of gigs and rehearsing has to lead to something. You would think.
You'd hope so, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, we were trying to do our own thing. Like, as much as it was like taking influences from this and this and this, lots of different bands, we were trying to create our own sort of path with our music.
Well, I think it came through, mate. The Damage stuff is just so original, even today. Like, you put on Do Not Spit, for example, just because we were talking about that, and I listened to it today 3 times in a row, and I'm just like, this is just so original, so brilliant. It's such a landmark in particularly Australian metal music, that's for sure.
I appreciate that. I think it's because it came from 5 people who had a very wide and very musical taste. Like our bass player was into a lot of stuff that, say, I wasn't into, but that was cool because his style of bass playing and the way the riffs were played and just the way it all came together with Jamie's vocals and his input. It just all seemed to work there for a while.
Totally, mate. Totally. Yeah. And I guess, because you guys, Damage has kind of had a very, I don't know, there's a lot of conjecture about what happened with you guys and whatnot. We won't go into that quite yet, because around after about 94 or so, you started playing, you played with Sadistik Exekution. Tell us what it was like to play with those guys during that period and to go on their European tour, which would have been kind of crazy. Like, you kind of the year before you did a tour with a couple of supports with Cannibal Corpse, and then the next year you go join up with Sadistik Exekution, and then you go on tour in Europe. It's just a whirlwind, mate.
At the time, it was a bit of a surprise, really. We went to Sydney to play a Damage show, and it was I think there was about maybe 6 or 7 bands on a bill, and one of the bands was Sadistik Exekution, and I'd never actually met them before, but I knew a lot about the band, and Chris Hayes just approached me, and I spoke to him about, he just asked me whether I was interested in going to Europe to play a tour with them, because their drummer situation wasn't ideal. The guy that they had playing from, I don't think, wanted to go, and so I just ended up saying yes, of course, and went ahead with it all. And it was probably one of the most mental things I've ever done in my life.
Imagine.
It was completely, something that I never imagined. It was in Parrot, Nazarene, Sadistik, and Sadistik, Texas. And the whole thing was pretty outrageous. The behaviour, the gigs, the whole thing in the Parrot, Nazarene. It was a pretty cool experience. There was a few moments on the tour, though, that I was wondering whether or not we were actually even going to finish the tour or get kicked off the tour. But we got through and did the whole thing, and it was something that I'll never forget or regret doing. It was pretty awesome. What
was one of the moments that you felt like you were going to get kicked off the tour? What happened?
That was the bus brawl.
Okay.
That was when Chris went completely crazy when Dave Slade, the bass player, had put Rock in a headlock and would not stop putting him in a headlock. So things got a bit crazy, and Chris beat Dave up on the bus after Dave had smashed the stubby and glass had gone all over the Parrot members, and he bit the drummer from prescriptor from Abstu's hand, and that actually bit down to the bone. And I actually saw prescriptor in 2011, I think it was, and he showed us a scar on his thumb. He said, I know that things got a bit out of control. He said, but I've actually got a scar because he actually bit it to the bone. I said, I didn't even know that it got bitten to the bone. That's ridiculous. But, yeah, Dave ended up a bit sad and sorry and sore. But the tour got completed. I just think that the record label wasn't very impressed at the time, and they never actually toured again overseas, ever after that.
Wow, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But as you say, those crazy times and not having any regret about it, it's, you know, you got those memories forever, and it's something to always look back on, mate, that's for sure.
Yes.
With a laugh and with gratitude.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It was pretty cool. And I would definitely don't regret going and doing it, that's for sure.
And then because there's so much to cover, mate, so I don't feel like we have time to cover every aspect of your career, even though I would love to. I had so many things I wanted to talk to you about, but
yeah.
In 96, 97, you played with Malone for a while, and you did some stuff with Blood Duster as well. And but in 2004, I said I'd come back to this at some point. Damaged kind of, you know, you guys broke off. You did your last show together. Just to settle the score for all the people out there in Ballarat listening in, what kind of broke the band apart, if you don't mind me asking, mate?
Oh, there's a bunch of different things, really. I don't know if I was really that keen at the time to continue. The band was brutal. The band had all the potential still there. I think it lost a lot of momentum through the fact that the band didn't really retain any of that lineup that created all the momentum in the past. Namely, change of vocalists and just dealing with all that and people losing interest. And it just came to a point for me where I just didn't feel like it was going to work anymore. Not the way I wanted it to, anyway.
Yeah.
And there's probably a few other things, personal reasons and stuff like that, which I won't get into. But there was just a bunch of different things going on in my head at the time. And I just had enough.
Yeah.
Mentally, my physical health, the 15 years that it took to get to that point. And I'd never quit the band until that point. Like, the band actually sort of dissolved for a short while around 96, when the whole vocalist thing with Chris Wallace and everything, when he left the band. He'd only been in the band for about 6 months. And we'd done some final shows with Jamie in 96, and or final show, I think it was, at the Corner Hotel.
Yep.
And it was just a culmination of a bunch of different things and a lot of years of hard work, and I just don't think I was prepared to keep going.
That's fair enough, mate.
It's
totally fair. And the thing is, you've had so many projects on the go during that whole period and after that period as well. Like, just to mention briefly, you played with King Parrot for 2 years as well. And they've kind of really catapulted into the stratosphere with doing a lot of European and American shows. Just briefly, mate, because I really want to talk a little bit more about Gravetemple, actually. That's a project of yours I really love. But just what was it like being with King Parrot for that 2 year period?
It was crazy. It's probably one of the most full-on things I've ever done in my life as far as music goes. It was relentless. The touring was really a test for myself. Just to actually look at a tour and say, okay, I'm going to do X amount of shows in X amount of days, and keeping that momentum, keeping the energy up, staying healthy, all that sort of stuff. I think it was probably one of the most full-on times of my life. It was great. It was fun. There was lots of cool stuff that I saw. There was lots of cool places we went to, the bands that we played with, the whole lot. Some of the things that I could possibly not imagine, you know. A lot of hard work, but it was pretty cool. It was good.
What would you say is one major highlight of the King Parrot kind of period, those 2 years for you?
Wow. I think there's probably a few. I'd probably say doing that video clip was pretty cool. The video clip.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love your acting in that, mate.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Oh, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think playing at Soundwave in front of I don't even know how many people were there. That was pretty cool because I'd never played Soundwave before. I think meeting some of the people that we met through King Parrot, I think that was pretty cool. Just a bunch of different things, really. Things that I didn't really imagine happening.
Yep, for sure.
Things that seemed quite surreal at the time.
I can only imagine, mate, for sure.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to kind of delve into a little bit about Gravetemple, which is your project with Attila Kashir and Oren Mbachi, who is obviously an Australian experimental musician but has associations with Sun-O and that kind of thing. Because I'm a big fan of Attila's output that he's done over the last kind of, 20 years. I remember the first time I was 15 years old, I think, and I heard De Mysterious Dom Satanas and by Mayhem, and I heard that vocal. I love Dead's vocal on Live in Leipzig, but when I heard Attila's vocal on that recording, it just blew my mind. I thought, this guy's got such a special voice. That album to me is just pure black metal perfection, obviously, as well. But some of the stuff that he's done with Sun-O, his experimental stuff, the stuff he's done with Jarbo, he's quite an eclectic, I would even say a genius of vocalisation in the world. What's it like? How did you guys meet, and what was it like working with Attila on Gravetemple?
Well, it was probably one of the biggest honours I've ever had as far as anything to do with playing music in the entire time I've ever played music. Being a fan of Mayhem and not really knowing a hell of a lot about Sun-O, to be completely honest. I didn't really know a lot about it at the time. But I was absolutely just dumbstruck when I got a call to ask if I could actually go and do that tour. And I just remember thinking to myself, I can't actually believe that I'm going to go and do this thing with these people.
Yeah.
and it really was something pretty special to me, like to be able to play music with someone of that calibre, someone that is just so professional, has got such a unique approach vocally and as an artist and visually, and just all these things about him as what he does, how he does it, separates him from a whole lot of these other people. It's not just black metal, it's not just his vocals, it's just everything about what he does.
Yep.
He's just a master of his skills. He's just quite incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you've got Sun-O guys, you've got Oren, who have been involved in this music, experimental music and stuff like that for such a long time. And Stephen O'Malley has been pretty instrumental in a whole bunch of stuff in the underground, which I just, I remember learning a whole bunch of stuff about them and thinking these guys are actually very, very active with their music. They don't just play as a hobby; they do it as a job.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. I'd done like a show with Stephen O'Malley and Iron and Barchi. I got asked to play in Melbourne, and at that show, I got asked whether or not I would be interested in doing Gravetemple, and it was probably about another. I reckon it would have been maybe another 5 or 6 months later. I hadn't heard anything, and I didn't really expect anything, but I got a phone call, and Iron asked whether or not I would do it. So I said yes, and I went to Europe to play shows, and I went to meet up with them, and I remember meeting. Oh, I was so nervous to meet Attila.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
But he was the coolest guy. He's so cool. Really easygoing and just a really nice person to be around.
Yeah.
And so I've had a friendship with him now since then, which was 2008. And I've seen him a few times now. Like last couple of times he's coming out to Australia, and last 3 times he's come out to Australia. And with the Mayhem guys as well, I've got a bit of a connection with a couple of them. I had some help from Hellhammer when I was on the Hobbs Angel Death Tour in Norway, and he helped me out with the drum kit in Oslo.
Wow.
So,
because as far as drumming goes, like Hellhammer's drumming to me has always been a point of like I just love his drumming so much, along with your drumming as well. Like I'd probably put you, Hellhammer, and Pete Sandoval as probably my 3 kind of favourite metal drummers, and Dave Lombardo, of course. But yeah, you guys are just really special drummers, you know.
Well, I feel honoured that you put me in that list.
For sure, Skitz, for sure, mate. Amazing, original drummer. It's very, very rare talent.
Yeah.
But we better kind of promote the gig this Saturday, which is with the Melbourne Drone Orchestra, and you'll be performing drums. The Melbourne Drone Orchestra with Brian O'Dwyer as well, and the supports will be Ballarat lad Adam Simmons, and along with the Sacred Order of Magnitude, and that's at the Memo Music Hall in St Kilda this Saturday the 17th of December from 2:30pm. Tickets are $20. They're selling out online, but you can go onto Facebook, write in Melbourne Drone Orchestra, and try and find the links and pick yourself up a ticket. It's going to be mass annihilation. It's going to be loud. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be beautifully transcendent. So make sure you get down and make this one-off show. And tell us a bit how, because Dan's a good mate of mine, Skitz. How did you meet Dan?
I met Dan when he was talking to Chris Hayes from Sadistik Exekution.
Yeah,
and
right.
He was talking to him through, I think through social media, and he was saying that he wanted to play a show in Melbourne. And this was in 2010. And I got a phone call from Chris, and Chris was like, do you know this guy Dan? I said, no, I haven't met him. He said, do you mind if he gives you a call? Because we're thinking about doing a show. So I said yes. And then I spoke to Dan, and I met up with him. And then we started talking about doing the Chris Hayes show.
Yep.
and we started rehearsing, and Chris came down to Melbourne for a couple of weeks, and we rehearsed, and we ended up playing a show at East Brunswick Club, December 2010, and from there I just started collaborating with a few things. I did this thing called Burial Chamber Orchestra with Dan, and we did the funeral march. We recorded that, a couple other guys, and we've done a band called Plasmodium, which is actually coming out on a record label called the Tanis Records in Russia.
Cool.
29th December, actually. That album was recorded last year and was completed, I guess, like 6 months ago. I think it was finalised. And so we've done a few things. And we also did like another Chris Hayes show in mid-2012. But yeah, we've done quite a bit of music together, and it always seems to go great. And there'll be plenty more stuff probably down the track. But yeah, he's very professional. He knows exactly what he's doing. I've never seen anyone play a keyboard like that before.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And the style that he's coming up with, like he's got his own style. He comes up with his own original sounds and stuff that like I've never heard anyone do before.
Yep.
And that's the sort of stuff that is very inspiring.
Totally.
To hear someone that's very different and very capable of doing things that other people aren't capable of doing.
I feel the same about your music too, mate, and the way that you drum. I feel like everything you just described then about Dan, the originality, something that someone else hasn't done before. That's something you've always done through your whole career, and it's a pleasure to always hear every single thing that you release, because it's always different and always has this original intensity and energy that only you can bring as Skitz Sanders, I guess, on the kit, you know what I mean?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
But what can we expect from you on the kit for the Melbourne Drone Orchestra this Saturday?
Some heavy, hard-hitting chaos.
Perfect.
That sums it up, I reckon.
Perfect, mate.
Yeah, just heavy and hard-hitting.
I can't wait. I'm sure you've been looking forward to it too.
Absolutely.
Have you got any preconceived ideas aside from hard-hitting chaos? Or is it just going to go in and improvise? Is that something that you obviously feel comfortable with improvising, but is that what you're feeling for Saturday?
I think so, yeah. Like, I've got an idea in my head. I've got a like a vision of how it should go. Whether that goes like that or not, but usually I feel like that this will work pretty well.
I can't wait.
It's going to be cool.
Can't wait to hear it, mate. That's for sure. And it's the Melbourne Drone Orchestra featuring Matt Skitz Sanders on the kit, and Brian O'Dwyer will be playing as well, supported by Adam Simmons, who's a Ballarat jazz musician as well, and the Sacred Order of Magnitude. It's at the Memo Music Hall in St Kilda this Saturday, the 17th of December at 2:30pm. Tickets $20. Go onto Facebook, Melbourne Drone Orchestra, type it in and pick up a ticket. Otherwise, go to the Memo Music Hall website via Google and pick yourself up a ticket. It's selling out. If you roll up on the day, don't expect to get a ticket. I really do implore you to get one either right now or in the next couple of days. If your Social Security benefits coming in on Thursday, get a ticket on Thursday and don't miss out. This Saturday, Melbourne Drone Orchestra with Matt Skitz Sanders, Brian O'Dwyer supports Adam Simmons and Sacred Order of Magnitude. This Saturday, 2:30pm. Tickets $20. St Kilda Music Hall. Over there on Ackland Street, and I really appreciate your time tonight, Skitz. It means a lot to me, mate. I've been listening to your music since I was 14, 15 years old, so I really appreciate the chat tonight.
Thank you very much, mate. I really, really appreciate it. I'm glad to hear that Ballarat still has some stuff going on there.
Oh yeah, there's still a lot of metal going on. Last weekend there was the 2 Metal for Meredith kind of festival, 2-night festival with I think there's about 12 bands that played over 2 nights at the Eastern, which was good.
Awesome.
So there's still plenty of music happening up here, which is a lot of young blokes coming through too, playing a lot of different styles of metal. Got a lot of grind and death metal and stuff coming through at the moment, which is good.
That's good to hear.
For
Whether that was going on there or not.
For sure, mate. But I look forward to catching up on Saturday, and it's this Saturday at the 17th of December, 2:30pm, Melbourne Drone Orchestra with Matt Skitz Sanders, Brian O'Dwyer supports Adam Simmons and the Sacred Order of Magnitude, the Memo Music Hall in St Kilda. Tickets are $20, starts at 2:30pm. Love you and leave you, Skitz. I look forward to shaking your hand on Saturday afternoon.
Cheers, mate. You're a legend.
No worries, mate. Catch you later.
Thanks, mate. Take care.
Here's the Melbourne Drone Orchestra right now.